Hey everybody, it is Chuck Barone on Wednesday, August the 7th, 2024. What a crazy freaking day today was, guys. You saw this? I woke up this morning, flipped on the market. Okay, it looked like the pre-game market stuff. The futures were looking good. The market was going to rise. Market opened 6:30 a.m. Pacific time. Boom, market was looking good. All right, let me go. I get some exercise done, do my morning routine, look back at the market. Whoa, everything changes. Market turns down. And wait till I tell you exactly what happened today and why that happened, guys. Not good news today. Before I get rolling though, let me take a second. As always, welcome everybody to the show. Thank you guys for your support. Special thanks to my guys on the chat before the show starts. My favorites here. These guys make me laugh every day. And I'll get to some of this stuff too, guys. The and along with the Bills too. sorry, Salty. I don't know about the Pats this year. But interesting times here, guys. Let's talk about these markets. Okay, so we saw what happened. Monday bloodbath. Yesterday we get a little bit of a bounce. Everybody kind of breathes a sigh of relief. Pre-game markets look like markets were going to continue to rally. Then the news about the Treasury auction came. And I don't know if you guys have heard about this because they're keeping it very, very low key here. But this Treasury auction, it didn't exactly fail, but it came pretty close. They actually had to raise rates on the 10-year. This was a giant auction for 10-year notes, $42 billion in 10 years. They actually had to raise rates 3 basis points just to get them to sell. So now they're at over 4% on the 10-year. And the interesting thing was the dealers still had to hold almost 18% of the bonds. Couldn't sell them. Now it was a huge auction, $42 billion, and they're doing this like literally every day. So today was a tough day in the bond market. I'll get into more details about that later. Let's talk about these stock markets and the bonds and everything that happened today. So as we know, everything turned around. The markets ended up down. The Dow fell 234 points. That's like a 500-point swing because it was up around 250 points. Boom. Now sitting at 38,763. The NASDAQ falls 171 points, 16,195. The S&P falls 40 points, 5,199. So across the board, stocks took a beating today. Now, the bond market. You would think with stocks weakening, the bond market would be a little stronger. And the short end of the market, 2-year or less, was pretty strong. The longer term stuff, because of this auction, horrible. The 10-year now sitting at 3.96%, up 8 basis points from yesterday. As I mentioned, it's going to probably go up again tomorrow because they had to offer the bills today at over 4. So that's going to be interesting. The 2-year, though, sat unchanged. So now the 2-year at 3.98%, unchanged from yesterday. So now the inversion is just at 2 basis points. That's it. So now with the way things are, the Fed going to be cutting short-term rates because of the Treasury and what they're doing. So many auctions on longer 10-year notes or 10-year bills, actually. They're putting so much pressure on this bond market. So long-term rate's going to come down. Long-term rate's going to continue to rise. The dollar today picks up some steam, up 24 basis points, back up over 103, 103.20. Sorry about my dogs barking. My wife just got home. So the dollar rallying back up, looking good. Gold, though, and silver falling today. Gold down $8 per ounce. Sorry, guys. Sitting at $2,383.70. Silver falls 35 cents. Shut up! $26.62 for an ounce of gold. For silver. Okay, maybe she's coming in. They'll shut them up. So precious metals today, not in a good spot. Silver's starting to really concern me. But it just has not shown really any strength since it rose above 30 and has not been able to get even near approaching that again since it fell back under. Oil today rallies up $2.14, now back up over $75, $75.34. We'll see, because it sure looks like we got a recession coming, even though Jamie Dimon came out today and said no. I don't know, guys. Things are looking pretty bad. And when we add up the scorecard, all the reasons we're not going to have a recession, as opposed to all the reasons we likely will have a recession, the scale's getting heavily imbalanced to one side. So yeah, oil rallies up. We'll see if it can hold it. I doubt it. Bitcoin down today, $1,341, sitting at $55,193. So basically just a crap day for the markets all in all. Nothing really good happening in these markets. And this Treasury auction, truthfully, is really to blame. So what happened is this Treasury auction, like I said, $42 billion in 10 years, 10-year notes. They were actually, like I said, forced to raise rates on these notes to start generating sales. Dealers were forced to eat 18% of these bonds. Now, normally that's between 10 and 12% that they hold back for a stash. This was as close as we've come to a bond market failure in a long time. Now, the corporate people were in the bond market today as well. 7 companies offering $31.8 billion in offerings from just those 7 companies. This is only going to continue to get worse, guys. We're going to find out just exactly how much the bond market can handle. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, we're going to see a large spike in longer term rates. Not great for real estate, certainly. Just when we were hoping that rate cuts could kind of bring mortgage rates down a little bit, no. The federal government just continuing now to borrow money with reckless abandon. What they're going to do is just continue to borrow until they break the bond market. How are you expecting this bond market to digest 75 billion freaking dollars a day, guys? These are unprecedented numbers, and this is not going to end well, man. So it's going to be interesting to see as the Treasury tries to elbow out everybody out of the way to get to their money first. I'm going to guess that the desperation is going to set in, and sooner or later, they're going to have to set the bond market up where Treasuries get priority over corporates or any other type of offerings. It's going to be fascinating, but I'm telling you guys, the sad news is I'm watching this political crap as we're getting ready for a big election. And I have not heard either team, not red team, not blue team, at all, talk about $35 trillion in debt. Talk about a legitimate plan that everybody could tolerate to start getting that debt under control. 35 trillion in debt is bad enough. But when you're adding 40, 50 billion freaking dollars a day to that, guys, not good, man. This is really now getting on a line. It's starting to affect everything now. So the government's greed and stupidity and all of the terrible things they're doing. And let me say this. You know me, I'm an equal opportunity hater, not on the blue team, not on the red team. Really believe, and I hope I can convince some of you guys to believe, they're all full of crap, guys. They could give a shit about us, about working people. It's all taking care of their base. So for the red team, it's the wealthy, the corporations. For the blue team, it's the immigrants, the minorities, the poor, and everything else. Us, the schmuckatellis, what do we get? We get the bill for everything, guys. And somebody now needs one of these parties, the one who's going to win this election, is the one who can fake caring about the middle class the most. Because we already know neither team does. They just look at us like we're a bunch of dumbasses. They can rely on to vote for them, rely on to contribute $25 at a time to their campaigns, and reliably shut up and stick to our team, whether they're right, wrong, or any freaking thing else, right? So hopefully, after what happened in the bond market today, one of these red blue team guys has an economic guy that says, hey, maybe we should start talking about this, because I'm telling you what, fear is what works. What's more scary than this, man? Could you imagine if the U.S. Treasury actually held an auction and the auction failed? Well, when you're almost at 20% of your offering can't get sold, guys, that's almost $9 billion freaking dollars in bonds that did not get sold today. I don't know how this ends well, guys. Corporations borrowing to the max. The funny thing is, consumers, while still borrowing money, are borrowing at the slowest pace since the pandemic, which is scaring the crap out of economists too. Another sign pointing to a giant recession coming. Now, I'm convinced we're not going to get this soft landing. I don't care what Powell does, guys. This pressure on, he can't control long-term rates. He can kind of push and shove and talk and do that stuff. But when you got the friggin' government in here borrowing this kind of money, corporations right behind them borrowing this kind of money, guys, it can't be sustained. It can't. So there you have it. That's what today's story was all about. Everything was going great till the news of this bond auction came out. It's so freaking crazy, guys. But like I said, expect short-term rates will continue to come down. Long-term rates will spike and will spike hard. That's what's coming in the bond market. Interesting, talking about the bond market, I was reading an article today that said Warren Buffett, the Oracle. Does this guy look like a freaking genius right now? Did he just sell half his Apple stake like right before it started tanking? Has he been selling stocks for the last 6 months? And now all of this correction's coming, and Buffett sitting on, listen to this, guys. He now holds more T-bills than the Federal Reserve does. 234 billion freaking dollars in T-bills, Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway holding. Plus, they have $40 billion in cash or cash equivalents. Oh, Jesus, man. Buffett making more than 10 to $12 billion a year just from this. Just from this, man. Crazy times. Now, the Fed, we know how much debt of the U.S. government they own, over $4 trillion. Amazingly, most of that is in super short-term debt. They only owe $195 billion in bills. The bills started 10 years, right? So 4.4 trillion total, but only 195 billion in bills. They own bills, notes, and bonds, so they own everything. They even own all those inflation-linked securities. Buffett, genius, right? 75 billion in sales. 75 billion he dumps in Apple. Just over the past couple weeks. Sure looks like Buffett knows what he's talking about. If he's going to cash, like it certainly looks like he is, he's getting his portfolio situated to be much more defensive. I don't think that would be a bad idea for all of us, guys. Now, I know that we've had our portfolios kind of set up pretty strongly, 15% or so in precious metals, gold and silver, about 30% in fixed income assets, bonds, CDs, cash stuff, 50% or so in equities, but the most conservative stuff, utilities, preferred stocks, dividend-paying stocks, stuff that's going to last even through a recession. It might go down, but it's not going to get hammered like most of these tech stocks. We might want to move now a little bit money out of the bond market because we're going to see those longer, especially if you have longer term stuff, we're going to see rates spike there and you can take a capital loss on that. So be careful with longer term stuff, debt stuff. But it might not be a bad idea to, if you have some stuff in your portfolio that you need to weed out, it's a little more speculative, it's a little more risky kind of stuff. It's only a very small portion in your speculative part of your account, that's fine. But if you're looking at your account and you're seeing that you have some exposure where in a recession you could really get torn up, take some time and redo that, okay? Jamie Dimon comes out, says no recession today. He says odds have not changed even though the stock market's selling off. He's predicting a 35 to 40% chance for a recession, basically saying there will not be a recession. Gotta say, I disagree with Jamie. Home prices finally starting to fall. Sellers slashing prices. Guys, have you seen this? Listen to this. Almost 20% of houses listed have now cut their prices. That's up from 3% cutting prices a year ago. So houses taking longer to sell, prices too high, rates too high. The real estate market, which has been in so much trouble for so long, now it looks like the wheels are finally coming off and we're going to get the big correction, which we've been kind of waiting for. Once sellers start cutting their prices, guys, it's a race down. If you got, what it is because of the way they build houses, so many different model matches, you're going to try and hold out for top dollar on your house. You're not going to get it because the comps are going to be coming down as these lower price houses sell. So if you're thinking your house is worth 500, but a house in your neighborhood or two houses in your neighborhood sell for 420, 430, whatever, guess what? You just took a $70,000 haircut on your equity. Gonna happen, going to see it. I've been telling you guys for a long time, rates are high, prices are high. We can't have both in real estate, so one or the other has to come down. The Fed has not moved on rates, so prices are starting to come down. I think we're going to see what happens is rates will start to come down, prices will temporarily spike up. When people see the payments really haven't changed, prices will continue to come down. Business Insider says rising debt is, they said rising debt and falling income for consumers will bring this recession on. People still, even though they're borrowing less, we talked about it yesterday, $1.14 trillion in credit card debt, $1 trillion in automotive debt. These numbers are enormous, guys, and the payments are so friggin' high, people can't afford them. Delinquencies going up, foreclosures going up, repossessions going up, credit scores getting slashed. Now, when you add on the inflation and wages not rising so much, consumers don't have the spending power to keep the economy afloat. Business Insider says recession coming soon. U.S. oil production, brand new record, guys, last week, 13.4 million barrels per day. We are now and have been the number one oil producer in the world. Screw you, Saudi Arabia. And hopefully we can keep that up because that will certainly help keep oil prices down. Airbnb today, stock tanks almost 15%. Have you guys ever rented an Airbnb? Now, when it first started, it was so awesome, man. You could rent a really nice place, get a fair price on it. You'd have way nicer than a hotel because you got so much more space. You didn't get the amenities. You didn't get the room service. You didn't get all the stuff that goes with staying in a hotel. But you got way more space. You got a whole condo or a whole house instead of just a room, and it was really nice when it first started. Then what happened is everybody trampled into the industry. People overloading Airbnbs. There's too many of them now. Plus, they started adding on $1 million Brazilian in junk fees, where it used to be competitive with hotels. Now it isn't. I mean, they want $300 to clean the place, and even if all you do is sleep there and maybe mess up the beds, the sheets a little bit. Airbnb in deep shit right now, guys. Dip in credit card use points to a recession coming, guys. Credit card use still going up, but going up very slowly compared to its normal pace. So this typically signals a recession coming as consumers start to really look at like, oh shit, man, things are bad. I could lose my job. They start to borrow less. They start to buy less. They really go deep underground to get out of the way of what's coming. That's what we're starting to see now. So all of these cracks that we talk about every day now, just there's so many of them, guys. It's really hard for me to believe that Powell can pull this one off. I just don't believe it. And lastly, before I go, Utah today became the first state to ban books statewide. So they're going through these school libraries. They're deciding what books they don't want. They got Animal Farm is now on the do not read list, guys. George Orwell's Animal Farm. I get it. We don't need anything creepy in school libraries for kids to read, anything that's even remotely sexual or pornographic. We don't need that. But Animal Farm? Really? Come on, man. So Utah leading the parade on this. We'll see if it gets to be contagious. Hopefully it won't. This is just not a good sign for freedom when the government going to dictate what people can or cannot read. And yesterday, You saw Kamala Harris came out with her VP pick, Walz, the governor of Minnesota. Seems like a pretty honest guy. The one thing I like about him, and I know this will not help you guys here because a lot of you guys who are viewers of this show are big backers of Donald Trump. But I'll tell you the one thing I really like about the guy is he's not a freaking lawyer. Not a freaking lawyer. They said other than Trump, he's the first one since Jimmy Carter to be on a major ticket and not be a lawyer. Oh, Jesus. And this is one of the biggest things that's wrong with our country is all these lawyers running this country. They have certainly a different view of the world than a regular working guy is going to have. So, I think that this race is still, no matter who she would have picked, no matter what both team does, this is going to be a photo finish at the end, guys. It's a 50% each way kind of proposition. There'll be this and this with the polling, blah, 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 but it's coming down to who can get their people out, man. It's going to be a dash to the finish line. Fascinating stuff with all of these, now they got the battleground states going. We're here in Nevada, so we're going to have, both teams coming here to Nevada this weekend. J.D. Vance following them around, getting out in front of them. I think that's a pretty clever idea. And we'll see now if this guy can add anything to her campaign or not. It seems like he's pretty well-spoken guy in a normal kind of guy way, not super slick lawyer talk. J.D. Vance, well, he seems like an everyday kind of guy too, till you learn a little bit more about his background. I think most ordinary guys don't go to Yale. Most ordinary guys don't have big connections in Silicon Valley. I think that Silicon Valley group, all of his friends, the Elon Musks and all of them, are certainly going to pour a lot of money into Trump's campaign. It's going to be a fascinating fight to the very last moment. We'll all be biting our nails on election day. It's all going to come down to just a couple of states. I was really surprised Harris did not pick Shapiro. I guess, the Democrat base doesn't like him because he's Jewish and he supports Israel. Go figure. Now Israel's the enemy to some of these crazy-ass Democrats. But I guess that's why he didn't get them now. They were afraid of some protests. This is the kind of government we have where they're going to make their decisions out of fear of some crazy-ass young people protesting. It's the world we're living in, guys. Anyway, that's it for the day. I'm running way, way, way over. As always, guys, I really appreciate your support. Please do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that like button. Changes the algorithms around. It gets us on to a few more views. We could use those views. And thank you to everybody. David Molly. I know her name's really Marley, Dave. I missed it the first couple times, but now I just call her Molly because, well, what the hell? Hopefully she won't get mad at me. It's just making fun of myself, obviously, more than her. Anyway, guys, that's it for the day. Have a great night. Tomorrow we get preseason football kicking off. We got football all frickin' weekend, even though none of it really counts. But at least we get to see the uniforms. We get to see some of these rookies playing. Can't tell you how happy that makes me. It's a huge distraction for me to get my mind off of all this insanity for a little while. Anyway, I babble. Tomorrow's another day, guys. Tomorrow we'll get jobless report. That's going to be a big one, plus other data. See you guys tomorrow. Thanks.